So welcome to our Juggle Is Real event. Today's discussion is all about managing mortgages, motherhood, and male-dominated industries. So my name is Kylie Shim, and I'm joined today with Kayla, who is our marketing and events coordinator. It's nice having her jump on. Before we commence this evening's event, I really would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that each of us is sitting on today. I would also like to really pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So, for those people new to the Women in Digital community, and there are definitely some of you today, welcome. Women in Digital is all about connecting, educating, and empowering our way to diversity in digital. And today's panel discussion is no exception. It's no secret that life feels like it's getting busier and busier, and that is still the case somehow, even though we're all in a pandemic. And for most of us, the juggle is very much real. So whether you're juggling a project deadline and a university assignment, hungry children and an 8 a.m. Zoom call, or an extra shot latte and a never-ending to-do list, which feels like is my life, we are all juggling different things. And so that's what our guests are here to talk about today. But today's panel won't be moderated by Kayla and I. We're actually going to turn our camera and mic off in a sec and sit back and watch it alongside you guys, which would be quite nice, because we've got our chief juggler and all-round impressive woman in digital, Elizabeth Gibbons, here today leading the discussion. You guys should be pretty familiar with Elizabeth's face, especially if you're Brisbane-based, but she is our Director of Client Services for ZeroSeven. And ZeroSeven is the award-winning design and development house. Elizabeth's the type of person that is forever kicking goals and juggling competing priorities. So aside from her full-time job, Elizabeth coordinates the Brisbane Umbraco Unicorns Group, facilitates panel discussions in the community like this one and also with networks, and just casually completes her EMBA at QUT on the side. And if you're not familiar with the EMBA, it's kind of an MBA but on steroids. It kind of puts all executives in a pressure cooker environment. So Elizabeth is the perfect woman to lead today's discussion. And over to you, Elizabeth.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for coming on board to talk about the Juggle Is Real. We're all here juggling in real time. So we're going to start going around probably in a loop and introduce each other and what balls we're juggling. So we'll start with Anne on the end.
Hi everyone, Anne Marron. I guess I'll start professionally. I'm the leader for Queensland Large Enterprise at Amazon Web Services. And I'm a member of the Women at Amazon ANZ Affinity Group in the role of Queensland Program Director. So I get to choose cool things to double down on that'll be impactful for women and girls who are looking for careers in technology and digital. I'm also very privileged to be a member of the Women in Digital Advisory Board. Personally, I live on 2.5 acres in the absolutely stunning Sanford Valley. All the Queenslanders should know where that is, with 3 exceptional humans, my husband Mal, my 7-year-old son, my 5-year-old daughter, who is quite the handful. My mother always said that I'd get a daughter just like me, and I did. And I can't forget our miniature schnauzer, Bentley Marron, who's an absolute little superstar. So that's just a picture of some of the more significant things that I juggle.
Excellent. Well, let's pass it on to Nicola. I'm just jumping around everywhere, so just roll with it.
Cool. I'm Nicola Lambie, and I'll follow Anne's lead. And professionally, I'm currently heading up marketing at Energy Super, so working with the financial services industry, so very much the male-dominated industry, and looking forward to talking about that. I've had a wonderful and busy career through marketing, business strategy, and digital transformation over the past 20 years. Personally, I'm a wife and a mother to 2 little human beings. One, my daughter Ina, who is 6, and my son Drew, who is 4. My daughter's a little dream. My boy is the craziest thing I've ever met in my life. And we have a crazy cat that just jumps in between all of that as well. So I thought about this and I think I am a compulsive juggler. I love being busy, and I'm known to say that if I'm not busy, I'm bored. But sometimes it'd be nice to dial that back a bit. But both my husband and I work full time. We juggle the kids, schooling. I play hockey 3 times a week, and somewhat stupidly, I'm learning to code right now, which has been the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. So just adding that into my mix of juggle.
Excellent. We'll pass it on to Ali.
Hey everyone, I am Ali Tutkaluk. I'm saying my last name because I know you're all probably looking at it going, how do I say that? I work for the Leukaemia Foundation, a charity. We're all over the country, but I'm based here in Brisbane. So I manage our corporate digital channels like our website, EDM, paid and organic search. The juggle I have at home is I have a 4-year-old. I also have baby number 2 on the way, due just after Christmas. And up until recently, I was also doing postgraduate study and managing a major house renovation. But luckily, those projects have died down a little bit for now. So we'll see.
And last but not least,
I'm Lara. I head up and Chief Marketing Officer for GlobalX, which for those who are not familiar is a partner of Women in Digital, very proud partner. And I look after with my fabulous help of my team, look after the marketing, corporate communications and branding activities for across the group. So that is for operations here in Australia and also the United Kingdom. My team's actually based out of both Brisbane and Melbourne. I reside in Adelaide. I was constantly on planes every week, as Holly and Carly and the girls at Women in Digital are familiar with. Every week before COVID, and my life's on a complete 360 because of this. So as is the way of the world now, I'm managing that team remotely from Adelaide between Brisbane and Melbourne, as I said. So yeah, that's come with some challenges, but lots of benefits as well. On a personal front, I am married and I have 3 sons, twin boys who are 11 and an 8-year-old as well. Currently also doing a house renovation in the midst of moving out of my in-laws where I am at the moment, and we've been living for 10 months, so we moved back this weekend. So we've got a big juggle going on, but a bit like you, Nicola, I think I'm a compulsive juggler and I love all that, and I look forward to having some more in-depth discussions around that tonight.
excellent. Well, I think the first question on the list, and someone has some feedback. Oh, there we go. Found it. So what does work-life balance look like? That's a very funny question. I would say it doesn't exist, but I can be wrong. I'm going to pass it off to Lara to kick us off with what she feels or what you think about work-life balance and what does it mean to you?
What does work-life balance mean for me? Great question, and I think that probably means something different for everyone here tonight. For me, personally, it means prioritising things, people, activities in my life that give me energy. So I think it's really important if we take a step back for a moment. You know, we've probably all done this at some point in our life where we've looked at what we perceive to be successful women and what's their secret and how do they do all this. But from what I've learned from my over 40 years of living is I don't think there is actually a secret. There's no secret. The juggle means something different to everyone else. We've all got these non-negotiables that we have to do, you know, whether that's filling the car up with petrol or buying groceries or calling your mum, even if you don't want to sometimes call, or going to the 5th cousin's birthday party remove. You know, we've got all these pressures on us to do all these non-negotiable things sometimes. But how I think of it in my life is, what are the negotiables that I can spend more of my time on because those things give me energy? So I think of, and a really simple way for me to visualize that is a pyramid. You know, what are your foundational big ticket items, call them, your negotiables that you can lay your foundations out across the bottom? You know, for me personally, that is traveling, it's my family, it's having a career, it's people. People give me energy. So, you know, I want the career, I want the family, I want to see my friends all the time, I want to travel, I want. But those things actually give me energy. So I've worked out what my foundational, you know, things are along the bottom of my pyramid. And we've got all these other little balls in the air above that fill up the rest of the pyramid. But if we can work out what those things are along the bottom and the foundations in your life and prioritise just spending more time on those, I think it becomes a lot easier to manage the juggle. In saying that, I don't think the pyramid's ever perfect. It's never perfect. The dynamics are always changing. We're having to move those blocks around at different times in our life, and sometimes we probably tip them maybe too far one way than another, and that's actually okay. It's okay not to have that balance constantly perfect. I don't think anyone's got a white picket fence. Everyone's doing the best they can. But I think we can all have some comfort if we've prioritised what those foundational blocks are in our life, put more energy and time into them, and then the rest of the non-negotiables that we have to do, all those shitty chores, you know, they're much more easier to manage and we get more energy for life. And yes, I just think it's really important to work out what your foundations are and what your pyramid looks like.
Well, who else wants to chime into that one?
I can. I have a very similar idea around it. And for me, it's more about a feeling. So I'm a mindset kind of individual, like to set goals and things like that. But for me, balance is about feeling incredible each day. and I won't settle for anything less than incredible. That's just the bar. I guess that ratio of yourself, being a mother, being a wife, being a professional, that changes every day. So for me, I strive, you know, for the end of the day to feel a sense of accomplishment, and knowing that I've made good choices around giving the right things the right amount of attention. That's what helps me feel that sense of balance.
And I think I can add to that. It's very similar, but I like to be present for the things that matter to me. So it matters to be in the boardroom on certain days, and it matters to be at team meetings, and it matters to travel. But equally, it matters to be at the dinner table as many nights as I can, or in the morning to give my kids breakfast. And it matters to have time for me. So it is, like Anne said, that constant change every day as to what matters to me.
Ali, you want to chime in? Last chance.
Look, I think it's amazing that we all sort of have a very similar viewpoint. I think, yeah, it's not like this perfect set of scales where everything has equal weighting. I feel balanced the most when I can see when certain things need more than others. So sometimes that little scale goes up and down. It can change week to week, as the other guys have said. So yeah, it's just about getting a handle and adjusting accordingly. And I think that's when you do feel balanced and happy.
So in order to achieve this balance and to be able to say, yep, this is important to me, there has to be a high level of self-awareness and I guess self-understanding to know what those things are. And I wonder if anyone wants to speak to, I'm sure there's people in the audience who might be exploring their self-awareness, maybe say how maybe you became aware of what was important to you. And then I guess the other side of self-awareness is self-care. So how do you make that piece work and how do you figure out what brings you joy and gives you self-awareness? So I think I might kick this one over to, let's see, Anne this time, because you were second last time.
Yeah, I guess, if we're talking about self-care, the world likes things in threes. So here are my top three things. I create a space where I'm really honest with myself about where I'm at. Some days the wheels may have fallen off the trolley or I may not have been as composed or present as I would have liked to have been. But it all starts with me really having a strong barometer and a sense of where I'm at. And then I guess, there are a few non-negotiables for my self-care time. And those non-negotiables are 3 Pilates sessions a week and 1 90-minute massage every couple of weeks. I would do it every week if I could, but 90 minutes is a lot. And lastly, it's your tribe. As overused as that, that hashtag is, I think it's really important to have a wonderful family and friendship support network around you to help with the kids, whether it be, you need a weekend away, or you're overseas on a business trip, or if it's, the kids are just going mad at home and they just, need a play date after school. That key, because, I'm a mother, I manage a team of incredible individuals. I'm a wife, I'm someone's daughter. It's kind of about, for me, I feel really good when I know that, I guess, there is balance for everyone's needs that I'm connected with. So that's connection time with yourself and your family. You've got your work time, you've got your play time as well. I think that ratio on whatever day it is, and that having awareness around that is really important.
I love that idea of having non-negotiables, like things that no matter what, this is what's going to happen, hell or high water. Does anyone else want to add to that point?
I will. I think almost some things like exercise or Pilates or yoga, or whatever it may be, how I kind of view that kind of thing is that's actually even separate to self-care. That's your health, right? To me, that's a non-negotiable even outside of self-care. And my partner, I think, has a very similar viewpoint. So I think, we fall into a trap of taking time to go for a run or something for time for ourselves. And it's like, you know what? You actually really do have to do things like that for your health and your mental well-being. So I reckon take the run and go for the massage. Like it's two separate things. I think definitely exercise is a non-negotiable, but also, it sounds overwhelming when you add children to the mix or study or whatever it may be, but you have to look at self-care. It's almost like another thing on the to-do list, and you've just got to do it, even if that's only little bits frequently. If you have to schedule it in, just do what works, because if you don't take it, you'll burn out and everything will fall apart, basically.
It's that whole idea of, I guess, recharging your batteries in order to charge forward and do whatever you want to achieve in your goals. Anyone else have a thing to say about self-care or charging?
So exercise for me is non-negotiable, but I find it really hard to fit in. So one of the things I do is I try to walk to work in the morning, because that combines a commute with exercise and time to think. But I also play a team sport, and I've played hockey for, way too many years, probably more years than many of you on this webinar. But it's non-negotiable to turn up for a team sport. So I've walked out the house so many times, almost in tears, because my kids are screaming and my husband's grumpy and work's buzzing me. But I have to turn up for the game. So I jump in the car, I drive there, which is probably the little self-care bit, because it's like breathe, stop, listen to some music of some kind. And then I go and smash a hockey ball around the park, and I feel so good afterwards. It's finding the right place to do that, and it's not always I love being able to schedule it, but it's not always possible. So it's just finding, like Ellie says, that right little moment that you can do it in. And the other thing I do is when I'm absolutely knackered, I just go to bed with my kids, and that's my only way I can recuperate after a busy week. So,
last call. Lara, would you like to contribute?
Yeah. Also, I've always found it really important to fish in exercise, and I have always prioritised that and agree with all of you. It can be really hard to fit that in. I find it works really well for me to do something like that early in the morning. So I'm usually up and at it, or try to be, for me, is early, 6 a.m. I just think it's really important for mental health and well-being, generally speaking, but particularly in light of COVID, where some of the lines have become a lot more blurred between, if we're all working remotely, or there's a lot more remote working and managing teams and other pressures that come with doing that at home. I think it's, those lines between work somewhat and home have become a little bit more blurred, with so many other benefits and silver lining as well. But it's really important just to take that time out away from the desk, from home, etc., just to grab your breath. And even if it's 10 minutes during the day, just to do quick power walk and come back, and it really does clear the mind. So yeah, I would really recommend that for everyone if they're not already doing that during the day, just for mental health and well-being.
Cool. So I think we'll jump down a bit to some of the juicier questions. You all are parents, and that's obviously a big part of your lives. So I think we're going to start with you, Allie, to talk about how becoming a parent was a big catalyst shift for you, and what did it mean for your career, and where are you at with that? What's your thinking?
Yeah, look, I think it's interesting. People always say, oh, kids are a deterrent to careers, but I really challenge that. How life-changing if instead of looking at having kids as a deterrent or a career blocker, what if you looked at them as that driver to be better, go after more opportunities, to be pushed? I feel that that's certainly how I felt after I had my little boy. Amazingly, I feel it made my career stronger. The skills you gain in that first year, they're a huge asset to any job. Multitasking, juggling, that huge mental load, not putting up with crap you don't have time for. They're all skills you quickly learn. So I kind of just naturally became a better employee. It really changed me. When I went back to work, I had become used to a very busy but very rewarding home life. And I guess I really wanted to mirror that at work.
I think that's a refreshing approach. No one really says oh, it's an opportunity for growth. Usually you hear a different narrative, but it's so true. Every obstacle or I think everything that comes across your path is an opportunity for growth. You just have to have that mindset of switching it around and thinking about the other way instead of maybe going down another narrative that might not be so productive. Anyone else have a comment on that?
I might jump in there if I may, because I couldn't agree more with Ali, or I'm of a very similar viewpoint. After having my twin boys 11 years ago, I remember going back to the workplace, and very much like you, Ali, there was, no time for crap. You were used to multitasking. You'd learn almost this whole new set of skills at home around multitasking on a whole new level. And I think to then go back in the workplace, that brings a lot of benefits into the workplace. From mums or dads who have stayed home equally. And I think that brings a really different dynamic, into the workplace. And for me, I love the thought of my 3 boys seeing me go to work and seeing that mum contributes on that front. That's not a driver for everyone. It is for me. I love them seeing me going to do that. So for me, I want to succeed. I want to do well for me personally, but I love that my sons get to see that as well, and what women can contribute in the workplace. And I work in a male-dominated industry as well in legal tech. So a lot of, I suppose, elements there where a lot of boys and men going on, and women have a really important role to play in that, and your children can be really positive drivers to want to succeed at your career.
Yeah, I totally agree. I guess, for me, being a working parent means that I have become incredibly efficient. I need to be present in what I do so I can deliver the results that I need to deliver. And, it has to be the first time round. I don't have time to backtrack. So that's a pretty clear benefit there.
And I think I would have said all those things too, but for a different point, I've become really respectful of everyone at work and their different challenges in life. So not everyone does have kids, and I think most likely many of us have seen when we're younger. Great juggle, Anne. Seeing parents walking out and you're like, oh, they're leaving early again. But as soon as you become a parent, you really start to appreciate that. And I actually drive all of my teams now, regardless of whether they have kids, to be really flexible. And that's not the case in every workplace. Not everyone is allowed to go home and look after parents, take the dog out for a walk, go and exercise, or go and play sport. One of my last team members did BMXing, so she, at 45 years old, so she used to leave at 2:00 every day to go and train. So you find that way of being really respectful of people's time and really appreciate the diversity that you have in a team to help people bring out the best in people within your team.
So carrying on that thread or that idea, so there's that book, that Love It or Hate It, Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. And she talks a lot about, I think, motherhood in terms of the accelerator, and how I think a lot of, maybe myself included, my younger self, was like this fear and this anxiety, but I have to make decisions and I need to like decide what I'm going to do. And I guess her reassurance is to not take your foot off your career accelerator despite your life choices or what you're juggling and whether or not you think that way. Has anyone here ever had to give up an opportunity, or I guess was under a lot of weight or stress because of juggling all their commitments? Or maybe we're all just super jugglers. We're like, who has these problems?
I'll jump in on the front, Elizabeth, of saying, I wouldn't say I've ever had challenges with opportunities or juggling them, etc. I feel sometimes I've taken them before I'm maybe technically ready on paper. And that's really been a great learning for me. And I'd love to, pass it on to everyone else to say, sometimes you might not technically be ready on paper for something, but, grab every opportunity that comes your way. And often you will be learning, as I've done in the past, almost on the go, and you're sitting there going, oh shit, I don't know this. And all these things are going through your mind, and you're doubting sometimes yourself and whether you can do it. But, give it a go. Everyone around you wants to see you do well in your workplace, in your family, in your home life. So whatever opportunities come your way, even if you feel, look, I'm not sure I've done everything they're asking for and I have all that experience, just give it a go. Grab it, because that opportunity might not come along again.
Yeah, I think one of my career-defining moments came a few years ago after I'd had my second child. He was 11 months old, and I got given a role that was bringing a new digital app into Australia, and I had to go to the UK and the US to go on a tour to see this. And I didn't travel a lot for work at the time, and so I was I don't think there's too many men on this call, so there's probably going to be a little bit more detail than the men might like to hear, but I was feeding my child. Apparently he wasn't onto a bottle, but I left and I got on that plane and went to the UK. I also actually caught hand, foot and mouth disease the week before I left, and for anyone who's ever experienced that, it's the most horrific virus that makes you just look terrible. So I'm sitting in this beautiful business class seat with ulcers all over my nose and my face, and so it was pretty much that point where you think, actually, I really can't do this, I just need to go home and not do it. But I did it, and it changed my career trajectory over the last 3 years. So I think even though things can feel just too hard and maybe I shouldn't do it right now, I really encourage everyone to jump in, because it'll work out. And it was so much fun. And the best thing I had was I got to sleep in a bed by myself for 2 whole weeks, which was just divine.
Because I think
That's
a lot of people
fantastic.
get really stressed about when is the right time to do some of these things. And I think the overall consensus is you just gotta make it happen, whether you want to or not.
That's it. And I guess the time you take off when you do have your children, that should be something that, well, I believe anyway, there are a lot of different factors involved in how much time you can take off. But that's a time that, I really cherished that. I took 15 months off with each of my children, because I figured, you have kids, they're not an accessory like a handbag. You kind of owe it to them to, to give them, the best start that you can. And for me, that's that time, that time is really important. Also, everyone is so different. Some women are just totally ready to go, and can still do that context switching and all of that juggle, but gosh, it was like a year, and I could, I knew that I just didn't have the capability to do that just yet as well. So I really took my time and enjoyed every second of living in activewear and sipping lattes with my darling children. It's great fun. But I wasn't concerned about coming back to, my job not being there, as an example. This was some years ago, obviously, that I've had my children. My roles were available for me to come back into at a pace that I could manage. And I ramped up back to full time from there. But yeah, there's certainly not been anything that I've shied away from as a result of having kids. Yeah.
Anyone else want to close that one off? Oh, nope. No takers. So I think considering our audience, is there any advice you would give your younger selves when it comes to juggling and prioritizing what you would do with the future of your life?
That question is like huge. My God. Oh, I don't know. I look back at my younger self and my attitude to work, I think, was just so different to what it is now. I don't know if that's come with age or experience or whatever. But I think when I was younger, I probably didn't stick it out in a lot of roles. You know, something was too hard or there was an aspect of it I didn't like. And I do look back at not every role, but one or two do stick out. And I think, oh, you know, I suppose wish that I had maybe the emotional tools to stick it out, to find a better way to maybe make it something better for myself. But I mean, having said that, I don't think it has drastically changed my career path in a negative way. But, you know, in hindsight, I regret that a tiny bit.
Open to the floor. Everyone was very wise.
I would say that you don't need permission to be incredible. You don't. You just need to back yourself. You need to make the choices that can be a little, you know, scary and out of your depth, just a little, much to the point that Lara was making earlier, you know, but just back yourself. You've got this, you know, and build a team of people around you that will be really honest and give you the right kind of feedback. I think that's important too.
Nicola or Lara?
Yeah, just further almost what Anne was saying, find, you know, there's so many people who are willing to give you their time. They can see you are wanting to be the best version of yourself. They genuinely want to give you and are willing to give you their time. So, you know, find those people who, whether it be in your workplace or your community, they're inspiring, or whether it be someone in your family, you know, pick their brains. You be a sponge. You know, ask them what their regrets were, or what they've learned, or what advice they could give, or even on situations that might be going on in your workplace or personal life. But, you know, use their wisdom, because people genuinely are willing to give you their time if you want to invest in yourself.
And great advice from everyone else. I'm just thinking about something I'd actually give my advice for more recently. So I had a great time right through my 20s and 30s traveling the world and working in all kinds of jobs and not even thinking about children. So I had my children when I was 39 and 41, which is so old compared to so many people. But when I first went back to work after having my first child, I didn't talk about my children ever, because I worked in a male-dominated industry and I felt like I had to come back and be career and work-focused. I learned over the last few years that when I went back after my second child, I started talking about the juggle. I started sharing it with everyone I worked with, and I've really become an advocate that I really believe that until it changes for men, that they can do the same childcare and picking up kids after school or going to concerts without any judgment or snide remarks that my husband gets from his co-workers. The world won't change enough until we do that. So it's probably not my younger self, but just giving that advice to, you know, don't be shy about talking about these things, because it has to change for all of us to make it better and give women the career opportunities. And there's a lot of men who actually like being part of their children's lives so much more. I would say most of them do, than they're allowed to be.
So I think everyone's here is like, yeah, I can do it. I'm empowered by this conversation. And then it's like, okay, how do you actually do it, or what key tips or tools do you rely on to juggle it? So I know for me, I'm a happy planner, which sounds kind of wild. Even though I'm a digital person, I actually have like a real planner, and I get great joy from decorating my planner with thousands of stickers, even though my team thinks I'm nuts. I'm cool with it. But I think it'd be good to go around and share what other tools or apps or techniques that you rely on that to make your life a little bit easier.
I can go first if you like. I like to be really clear with, family, friends, colleagues around the conditions that I thrive in, and I expect to hear the same from them. And I'll give you a really simple example. So there are probably minimum 20 ways that you can communicate with me. It can be face-to-face, you can call me, you can text me, you can WhatsApp me, we've got a Slack channel, messenger groups, the voicemail, the whole thing, right? I let people know that you need a quick answer from me, just shoot me a text. And I'll probably be able to get to it quicker than anything else. I'm also a real just pick up the phone and nut it out. Let's just talk it out. Right? So, a bit of backwards and forwards communication. But I don't, I'm not amazing at listening to voicemail. Please don't leave me a voicemail. And I love those people who have on their voicemail, don't leave me one, just text me. I should actually do that. I guess the second thing would be, plan, prepare, and finish what you start. And here's, one of those home examples. At home, we're always ready for the next thing. So, if it's something so like domestic goddessy, but, the dishes are done straight after dinner. That way we're not backtracking and dealing with yesterday's stuff today. Like, we're just ready to go all the time. So, and that's one of those other things about, being present and enabling yourself to be present. And finally, I guess my tip that will last the test of time is just go easy on yourself. Have a laugh when the wheels fall off your trolley. I think a good sense of humour really does go a long way.
Let's pass it down the line. Let's go with Nicola this time.
Sure. Well, I think we could have a sticker off or something like that.
Oh no, you have no idea what you're dealing with here. Like, it's expensive, out of control. I go to sticker conferences.
Yeah. Cool. Well, maybe not then. But and actually, so my trick, and it's very simple, is every Sunday morning at breakfast time, and we don't really have a set breakfast, but my husband and I sit down and I scribble out on a scrap bit of paper. I do have dreams of making a blackboard on my wall, but it's probably never going to happen. Just what the week looks like, and who's doing the pickup, who's doing the drop off, who's got meetings at 8 o'clock, and who's got things on at 5:30 at night, and who's doing the kids' sport. And that really works for us because it's really clear. And we do change it up during the week as things move, but it just means we're planned for the week, and that helps me. And I think the other thing is just looking at, Sheryl Sandberg said, and lean in, it's one of the biggest things I took out of it. Pay for as much help as you could get. And so I've always had a cleaner, even when I've not had a job or, really strapped for cash, because as much as I don't mind cleaning, it just takes up too much time when I can be doing other things. And my little trick at the moment, and I still feel a little bit guilty about this one, but I take an Uber to work most mornings. I'm back in the city, and I live 10 minutes from the city, but it takes about 35 to 40 minutes on a bus. And that 35 to 40 minutes, I can do the washing, I can make the kids' lunches, I can do the homework, I can dress them, I can brush the hair, I can, actually sit down and give them a cuddle. And that makes such a difference to my life. So it's, for that small amount of money that feels a bit guilty, it makes a huge change to how I balance things.
It's so true. You have to look for those, I guess, high value things to you. And for a lot of people, those, like, other items might just be low value and you just don't get much reward out of them. So yeah, you outsource them, find other ways of achieving it. I think that's brilliant to Uber to work. If you know that that gives you so much more personal time, like why not? Go for it. Allie?
So I mirror a lot of the tools and tricks that I use at work. I do at home. So we use Asana at work for managing our projects and tasks. I do that at home. I'm lucky enough
You're
to
living the agile way at home. Sprints,
Look,
life sprints. I'm so into it.
I'm lucky enough to be married to a software developer, so he loves it. I was like, look, sign up for Asana. We need a home personal account as well. So he's all over it. So I toggle between home and work accounts on the Asana app. And then on the weekends, if we have a spare morning where we're doing stuff around the house, we will do a Moscow list. So must.
Just have like casual retro over breakfast. So what went well this week? What didn't go well? We didn't feed the children. Improvement next week, guys. We're all on board.
Isn't it terrible? I say it out loud and I'm like, oh God, I swear we're interesting people. But I mean, and look, if some people hear that and they go, holy moly, are you uptight or what? I swear I'm not. See that, and I think that's the trick. The more you can get out of your head, and whether it's onto paper lists, an app on your phone, whatever it is, you're not thinking about that. You are so much less stressed if you have a spare 5 minutes. Open up the app. Is there anything on there I can do in 5 minutes? No. Well, go have a cup of coffee then. Honestly, I think that was the biggest game changer for me, actually, almost treating home as work in terms of how you manage those tasks.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone with that. I think there's quite a few people out there who are agiling and reiterating their families. So I think it's probably the next big thing. Oprah will do it next. You watch. And then Lara, I think you're next.
I might need to get a bit more agile like you, Ellie, on the home front, given I work at a tech company. I'm actually quite old school, or we are at home. So we've got a physical planner you can see at home, and my husband's actually really great at looking at what sport the three boys have on and activities, etc. during the week. And if it's a recurring event, he'll physically send me a calendar request for that to reoccur weekly, or even if a party pops up, he'll often, because I've been travelling, be on top of the invitations, etc. better than me, and will send me the request. So then when I get home, or even if I'm now obviously more at home in Adelaide, they'll just pop up as reminders, because otherwise, I'm terrible at that stuff. So thank goodness I have some help on that front. And the other thing too, further to Nicola's point before about, having a cleaner, I'm exactly the same. I'm happy to pay, basically to free up my time, even if you're left with less money at the end of the week. To me, I think that time is just so valuable. So, on a Saturday, I don't want to be there for 3 hours cleaning my bathroom. It's not, I'm above it or this or that. I want to spend time with my children, or go and see my friends, or do other things. So I think do things that, if you can get some help and outsource it in any which way, or whatever jobs those are that take time and you don't actually really love doing, outsource them. Get the help. None of us can do everything, as I said before. So, outsource that help, free up your time, and focus on those foundational things that give you energy and you enjoy doing. They're probably my tips. Outsource your help and diarise what you can. So again, get everything out of your head, or as much of that out of your head as you can, knowing that it will just pop up as required.
Cool. I think we'll go to some questions now, because I'm seeing them pop up, and some of them are kind of interesting, as in I think they're quite challenging. So I think we'll just jump into that right away if everyone's okay with that, because I think these are worth answering. Here's one. Often early stage tech startups don't offer mat leave, but offer amazing growth opportunities for a career. What's your advice or thoughts around this? Who would like to take that hot tamale? Oh, come on.
I guess I haven't worked in a tech startup, but I've been very familiar with them, and I've worked with a couple in America where they have very few benefits like mat leave. And I think it's about creating your own path. So I found that I was able to, I actually took quite a short mat leave with both my kids, but I went back very flexibly. So I actually used to hide in my bedroom with my very young daughter, set up a whole desk because there wasn't enough room, and then put it all back down again at the end of doing some work. So if you have a career opportunity that you really want to follow, but you want to have a child too, if you're that way inclined to balance those out, you can do both if you look after yourself. So I think the biggest thing there would be have the conversation about what does it look like? How could I keep working in some way as well as starting to have a family?
Anyone else have thoughts on that one?
I totally agree, Nicola. My husband and I started a tech startup company, which is how I came to be at GlobalX actually after they acquired a major shareholding in it, a digital verification company called ID Secure. And I couldn't agree more with you, Nicola. I think it is for everyone out there to have that conversation. We had an employee, one at the time, at a little while after startup time, who had already had children, so we didn't have to have that conversation. But on that journey of doing that tech startup, I met a lot of other people who had conversations. You know, they were founders like us who had those conversations and with people. And more often than not, you'll find out there people are, again, wanting to find ways for their staff to make that work. And that might be being flexible or, you know, a whole lot of other things. And I think that would have come to light a lot more now as a result of COVID. So don't be afraid to have the conversation. You know, dynamics of workplaces have changed, particularly, I would say, for startups as well. So, yeah, have the conversation and you'll, I think, be quite surprised at the response.
So leading on from that question, I think another attendee has asked that it sounds like a Dear Margaret moment, that they work in a male-dominated team who don't communicate much about self-care, mental health, well-being. So how would you, I guess, advise someone to start that conversation? Open to the floor, not just you, Lara.
I'm probably the worst person to answer this as I work in marketing at a charity where, you know, we are 98% female. But I suppose I can speak from working for a large organization. I mean, our people and culture department is definitely a big help for things like this. If the organization has that, I would probably be looking to them to really champion that. And if they're under-resourced or whatever, I mean, well, why not be the champion yourself? Be an advocate, see if they're interested in you becoming maybe an employee advocate for starting something. Maybe it's as simple as, you know, starting to do, I don't know, not that we can really do it now because of none of us are in the office, but, you know, lunchtime well-being sessions, PT sessions. I don't think it could sound daunting, but I mean, we've started things before COVID, we had single employees starting total rehauls of how we recycle in our office nationally. And that sounds like a small thing, but when you consider, you know, 20 odd offices, and that's just one employee making that change because she was passionate about it. So I think, you know, it can start from one person.
Especially nowadays with so many, like, I think about mental health in particular, like there's now mental health first aid and advocates, and there is such a big push from government in particular to put those programs in different work cultures that there's a lot of, I guess, third-party support that you can rope in to bring someone else in to have that conversation and point in that direction. So I think it's a lot easier than it used to be if you look out what's out there.
Yeah, I think the other thing is I've always found getting to know people and actually just asking the question about their family, their lives, you know, what they do at the weekend. And it can be hard when you don't know people, and it's even harder on Zoom. But it is definitely the way to open up those kind of conversations. I find, I'm going to be a bit generalist here, but most men are really happy to talk about their kids if you ask them about them. They might not do it in a group of men, but if you ask them, you know, how did your little one go at rugby at the weekend, and you'll just open up the conversation. And it can then be, like Ali says, you extend that out to well-being, any cause that you're passionate about. So yeah, I think it comes back to, again, trying to find those avenues to be brave and ask the question. And it's not easy, but jump in, give it a try.
So it looks like our audience is very concerned about maternity leave. So here's another one in that vein. So this one's asking, did you stay connected while you were on maternity leave, or did you connect in other ways? And how do you transition back with the same trajectory that was intended, I guess, before you left?
I did not stay connected at all. Can I just say, I had coffee with my manager like once. I took about 10 and a half months off. And I just didn't think about work. And why should I? I was on mat leave. I didn't have time to think about work. But I mean, I think it obviously depends on your role. I think my role at the time, it was safe for me. I knew I was going back to it. I didn't need to check in. Obviously, some other roles will be different. I think if you do want to check in, go for it. If it's starting to feel like a chore, something stressful, I mean, I'm very generalizing hugely here, and obviously this is my opinion coming through, but there shouldn't be a requirement for you to check in while you are on mat leave, keeping a small human alive.
Anyone else have any feelings, I guess, about coming back into workplace, or what they evaluated to make the choice about when they would come back?
I really taught myself not to have FOMO, not to have fear of missing out of what's happening, because if you think about what's happened, this year is probably not a good example, but let's take a normal year of what happens in your life. There's not a huge amount of change generally, and even if there is, it moves on to the next phase. So I actually had 6 months off this year, not through choice. So I got made redundant before Christmas. And so I had 6 months off. And I did have a bit of fear of missing out of what happens during COVID. Now I'm back at work. It made no difference whatsoever whether I'd been at work or not. So you learn that with your children. So I think it's focusing on the bits that you want to be part of. I think the other thing that might be interesting is I went back on a job share the second time round, and it was the most incredible experience to allow me back into the workplace 2.5 days a week. But on a Wednesday, I handed over to this amazing lady who we supported each other so much through that time, and we learned to work to each other's strengths. And that gave me the best of both worlds. And there was nothing better than walking out at Wednesday lunchtime, knowing that I had 2.5 days with my kids, and I was connected with work. So again, it's just finding those little avenues that you can do that.
I think people always forget that there are creative solutions out there. You just have to kind of look for them and explore. Like, job sharing is becoming more popular and more prevalent. It's just, again, having those conversations and figuring out new ways of approaching these things rather than just being like, oh, too hard, can't do it. Like, there's just so much more available than there used to be.
Yeah, and I think nobody at my work had done that before. And I was in a senior leadership position working with executive, and they hadn't had that senior level job share. And it was seamless. I don't think anyone ever complained how we operated.
Yeah, so it's not about limiting things. It's about exploring other options, and that growth mindset comes into play. Being like, well, why can't we do this? Like, what are the obstacles? Let's think bigger of ourselves, of this opportunity. Anyone else have anything else they want to share about transitioning out of mat leave? You want a shot?
So a bit like you, Ali, I actually switched off. I left. I was in again, fortunate enough to know I was coming back into a role, but yeah, I switched off. I really enjoyed that break and that time out, and enjoying the twins. And I also had time off, and I had my third son as well, about a year on both. So yeah, I found that actually quite easy to switch off. And further to your point too, Nicola, while you're away, you think, oh, there'll be all these changes, you know, a bit like when you go on a holiday, you think, oh, I wonder what's happening at home, and so much might have changed if you've gone away for a few weeks or a few months on a trip. But you do come back and realise really not much has changed. It's pretty much the same. And even if there have been some changes, you quickly slot back in like you never left. Within a week, it's all back to normal and you feel comfortable again. And yeah, so don't have those fears about, if you want to, just enjoy the time off, just enjoy it.
So thinking about, sorry, go ahead, Anne.
Sorry, Elizabeth. Yeah, I guess just that last, maybe just a last point there is that, you know, you have an absolute right to speak to your leadership about the conditions of your mat leave and what it's going to look like when you return. And you shouldn't be concerned about having that conversation. And I guess if you don't feel safe talking about or comfortable talking about that with your manager, then, you know, you should approach it with with HR and leadership, right? It's your right to go away, have a child, feel safe and secure with your career as you go back into the workforce, depending on your circumstances. So have the conversation.
Yeah, and you should always educate yourself. Like, all this information is available publicly. You can look at the legislation if you're so fit and understand, I guess, what you're entitled to and be prepared to have that. Because no one's going to really tell you what to do. You have to decide what works for you, and you have to understand, I guess, what you're entitled to as well. So the last question about this, I suppose, is probably more like a Sheryl Sandberg question, but how do you encourage men in your life to take on more of the parenting load? Because I think one of the things Sheryl talks about is pick your partner wisely. What do we think about that idea?
Oh my gosh, can I start? So we live in an equal opportunity household.
Here, equal opportunity.
Like, that is it. You know, we both wanted to have children. We wanted to live on acreage. You know, I don't iron his shirts. He doesn't iron my clothes. You know, if there's a mess, you clean it up. If the kids need something, you just, you know, you just band together. But yeah, I think everyone deserves to have an equal opportunity household where the lines are not, you know, it's not, this is a woman's job and that's a man's job. We're all in this together. It's 2020. Come on.
Yeah, get with the program, people. Anyone else?
Very much the same in our house as well. Equal opportunity household all the way. Both wanted the career, both wanted the kids, very much like you. And, you know, we both pitch in on all different or all the same things, actually. If there's dishes sitting there, someone will just do them. If there's kids to run around, someone will just do it. We just work that stuff out as we go, and it's really quite equal. And I've been very fortunate, actually, to have the help of Mark probably doing some extra running around with the children to enable me to travel. So yeah, for my career, which he's very, very supportive of, and as I am with him, and he has his own company as well. So yeah, very much equal opportunity. I think it's, again, just banding together. Let's not make it about, oh, that's your job and that's my job. Just, we're all in it together, we're in the household together. Just get the shit done and get on with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I picked a man who didn't want to have children, and then we suddenly ended up with two. So it wasn't really a planned or unplanned thing, but it's just the way life happened. And I am definitely more of the career woman in the house, but we have swings and roundabouts. So sometimes it's his work and his career that's at the forefront, and then other times it's mine. And I think that allows you to have that balance. And what I learned very early on, and this is before kids, and this is how I got a cleaner, is that we ended up arguing over who was cleaning. So actually, let's just get someone else to do it. And felt indulgent at the time because we were quite young, but it made the world of difference. So back to that point of pay for as much help as you need. I know a really wonderful woman who has a career, 4 children. Her husband travels overseas 3 weeks out of 4. She has a roster of nannies to juggle her children, as well as her time at home and his time at home. So it's kind of just, you make things work to each of your strengths, I think.
Allie, do you want to pipe in on this one?
I love how this is such an empowering, we're all yeah, our household.
We could do anything in this group.
I love it, guys. So look, before we had kids, I made my expectations pretty clear to my husband, I guess, about how things would be. And, you know, he's a lovely guy, and he was like, well, of course. I do more housey kid stuff. However, he works more hours, and he acknowledges that even though he works more hours, because I manage the household, we are even. So I think that has been really key, the fact that he recognizes the value of the fact that running the household is a job.
I think that's a good point to end it on. I think what we'll do for the last 2 minutes is we'll do a quick round robin, and everyone can do maybe their tweet-sized sentence or a top tip and takeaway for the community. So we'll start with you, Anne, then we'll go Lara, Ali, and then Nicola.
Look, you know, I think we've started a new hashtag of equal opportunity household here today. Look, you know, you don't need permission to be incredible. Hashtag back yourself. That's me.
Work out what are those key things that give you energy and focus as much time as you can on those, and it will make your life easier.
I would say whether it's house, kids, study, whatever that extra thing is, it's a job. Treat it as you would your other job. Be organized. Don't slack off in the day-to-day too much, but long-term, take those breaks as you need them.
And I think I'd run out with saying, don't wait for the right time, whether it's a step up in your career or having a family. I'd say follow your heart, and your head will sort out that juggle for you. It works.
Aww, that's an excellent end note, I suppose. So we'll hand it back to the ladies at Women Digital. And before we do, I'm just going to say thanks to our lovely panelists. I'm feeling a great high right now. I'm like, we should do this every week, because it does give you a little bit of oomph to tackle those tasks and to get on with things. So back to you, ladies.
Thank you so much. I feel like we're on a weird talkback show.
I know. Back to the newsroom.
Thank you so much. I actually really enjoyed that. We're sitting here nodding, being yes. I wonder, Ali, if there's a correlation between you guys Moscowing and setting up agile sprints in Asana, and your husband kind of seeing the unpaid work and the value that is in the household. You know what I mean? Whether that's, I don't know what your husband was like before you Moscowed everything, but
oh, we sound like nerds. I think we have, we're very similar people in how we approach things. We have similar values. We want similar things, in that, you know, we like having our house a certain way, and things like that. So I think, you know, those old cliches about getting, the sexist cliches about getting husbands to do stuff around the house. We don't have that, because he wants to keep the house in a certain way. And I think because of that, he sees the value in running the house.
Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time today. I know I got so much value out of it. Selfishly, I just wanted this event for myself. And yeah, we'll see you guys kind of at the next event. Cool, we're going to log off. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice night.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.